Hey, good evening everybody. Welcome to the first Camera House SM North Ed's workshop of 2016. So tonight we have Miss Dail Deri. Ang topic natin is starting your own studio. So without further ado, Miss Dail Deri.
Good evening po. Ay, gutom na. Good evening!
Good evening!
Ayun, okay. So, yung mga nasa likod, siguro later on, total, we have our material here. So, we will discuss how to start your own studio. Papakilala lang akong konti. So, my name is Dail Deri. Yung father ko po ay photographer din. So, ang joke ko lagi, photographer ako since birth. Ay, by the way, may foreigner ba tayo dito? Na naman. So, walang mostly pwede mag-Tagalog? Okay, lahat na kayo din Tagalog. Mahirap na. Okay, so, in a nutshell, I'm a photographer, instructor, and a writer. So, ang joke ko nga, I'm a photographer since birth. So, according sa white hair ko, naabutan ko ang film. So, as in black and white, no? De-develop ka ng film, negatives, enlarge mo. Tapos, instructor, I teach at Philippine Center for Creative Imaging. Ang class ko doon is Studio Portrait 101. So, it's the perfect class for those who are considering having a studio para sa business, or usually yung mga may day job ngayon, no? Tapos later on gusto na medyo mag-relax. Kung nakaka-relax nga ba ang may studio o baka stress, malaman natin. And writer. I used to write for iMag Photography magazine. Tapos I'm also, outside photography naman, I do web content, home-based writing naman siya. So yung tatlong yun naman ang thing. But before we go on, gusto ko malaman, if you have one question that you wish to be answered tonight, tungkol sa topic, tungkol sa studio, ano kaya yung question na yun? Siguro ko tayo kahit 5 questions. Ito mo may naisip na si Sir. Ano ba yan?
Regarding sa negative film, kung kailan siya pinagawa siya. Negative film.
Negative film. Okay. What else? Sino pa may question? Yes, sir. Siguro yell out na lang.
Yung pong kung magkano yung magagastos.
Ayun na.
Yung more on sa business side and yung photography.
Kung personal.
Aba.
Okay. Sige. May seatbelt ba yung mga upuan natin? Okay.
Okay, ayan, much better. May echo. Sino pa may question? Yes, sir. Basic equipment or gadgets? What else? Sa pa? Right.
Yung signs. Kailan being ready
Ooh, maganda yun Signs. Senyales. Ano pang kailangan? Spiritual? Okay. Ano pa? Siguro isa pang question. Anyway, later on as we go along, pwede naman, you can ask questions anytime. Okay. Pero may question muna. Why do you want a photo studio?
Why do you want to put
Siguro one yung passion mo. Never for photography.
Passion for photography. Dito ako banda sa, ayun, may mga babae. Ay! Ninong, hindi mo rin ata kailangan to. Gusto mo kinig. Okay, eto. Why do you want a photo studio?
Siguro, if you enjoy kasi what you do, it burns in like work. Yung having a photo studio, yun talaga yung gusto mo talaga, passion.
So, passion. Very passionate ang mga tao dito. Si Sir, bakit gusto ng
Sa business.
business? Pera. Okay. Eto, Sir, why do you want to
For new privacy shoots.
Okay, so new. Lumalabas na ang totoong kulay. We'll keep it PG. Rated PG tayo. Alright, so halo-halo naman yan. So sabi, most of the time, people want to earn from photography. bumili ka na rin lang ng mga camera, ng equipment, sasabihin ni Mrs., magkano ba yung binili mo? Magkano na naman yung lente mo? So, might as well pagkakitaan ka. Others, yung iba, nag-photography na. Events, no? And then they're thinking na, if I have a studio, I'll have more clients. Bakit? Ang Pilipino mahilig sa litrato. Diba? Selfie. Laging may selfie. Laging merong nagpapapicture. Yung iba naman, they think that, kung meron akong studio, meron kang office, may physical office ka that people can visit, mukhang mas legit ang business. Lalo na ngayon, sa internet age, laganap ang scammers. No? So at least, may opisina ka, ang isipin ng client, ay, pwede kang habulin. No? Mas professional. Others say, sabi nga yung passion, they want to hone their artistic skills. Or, dream ko na to bata pa ako, dream ko na magkaroon ng studio. To make a dream come true. And the first, other reasons, basically, first reason would be to generate income. And then yung iba naman, because not everybody wants to earn from photography, just to feed the soul, yung artistic side na. And then, mas maganda nga, sabi nyo na-mention sa likod, if you combine what you love and then earn from it. Parang yung mga basketball players, no? Lalaro lang, kumikita. Pero when we say photo studio, ano bang impression niyo? What comes to mind? Yan, sir. Yung early bird.
Yan siguro yung investment ko.
Ano pa? Anong mga napipicture when you say photo studio?
Office niya.
Office. Meron bang ibang impression of a photo studio? Yes. Oh. Wow. Malalim pala tong batch na to, no? May hugot. So sabi naman, photo studio is a building or a room where an artist works. No? So pwedeng sculpture ba yan, painting ba yan, photography, or a place where people go to learn, practice, or study an art. Okay, just to just to make sure we're on the same page. So ngayon alam natin na it's a place, it's a physical place where you do your artwork, specifically photography. Ano ba yung space requirements? Ayan. Gusto magkaroon ng studio. So before kayo humanap ng location ninyo, ito yung space requirements. So you have that, your space mo, una meron kang background. And most of the time, your background would be a seamless paper. Familiar lahat sa seamless paper? So para siyang giant cartolina. Ang size niya is more or less 8.9 by 36 feet. Then you have your subject. Gano'n ba kalayo ang subject from the background? Okay. So sabi, it should be at least 5 feet from the background. Bakit? First, it avoids shadow in the background. Di ba pag nagkukuha kayong picture, ang tendency natin is sabihin sa subject, sige, lapit ka pa sa pader. Pero, the correct way would be, palayuin mo siya sa pader. Bakit? Pag mas malapit siya sa background, makita mo yung shadow niya dun sa background. Palayo mo siya. Second reason would be for depth of field. Pag nag-shoot ka na with studio lights or with flash, a good starting point would be f8, no? For aperture. With f8, ang depth of field mo, medyo greater na. No? Kung gusto mo i-blur yung background. So by putting your subject away from the background, kahit pa paano, medyo nag-blur out yung, or out of focus yung background mo. And then next, to avoid spill light. So, yung galing sa main light mo, or sometimes from your backlight, hindi maapektuhan yung background mo. What does that mean? Kunyari, meron kang seamless paper, no? Background na black. Pag natamaan ng ilaw yon, ano na kayong kulay? Gray na siya. Okay? So, kung hindi na siya itim na itim lalabas. Alright, so from that, you have your main light and your backlight. Tapos syempre meron kang photographer. Gano'ng kalayo kaya yung photographer from the subject? Sabi, most of you have 50 mm. No? Dahil bumili ka ng camera, usual kit lens would be 18 to 55. And kung portraits, by the way, I'll assume na portraits, no? Pagka-studio. When you're shooting portraits with a 50mm, ang limitation nun is, you do not shoot closer than 5 feet. Bakit? If I shoot closer than 5 feet, meron ng distortion. Ngayon, kung medyo pangit yung kuko ng picture, pwede siguro, effect yan. Okay. Joke yun. Pwede tumawa. So, not closer than 5 feet. So, ayan na yung distance mo. Let's take the width of the studio. So, sabi natin, yun yung background mo, that's about almost 3 meters. Tapos, 4 feet or 1.2 meters for the sides para sa ilaw mo. So, that's a total of about 17 feet or 5.2 meters. So, ganun kalapat. Gano'n kaya kahaba? Okay. So, meron ka for the background. Sabi natin, at least 5 feet yung subject from the background. At least 5 feet yung photographer from the subject. Ano kaya yung para sa area na to? Siyempre, hindi naman pwedeng andun ka na sa pader ka agad. Kailangan from the photographer to the wall, meron kang allowance. Okay. Tingnan natin tong figures na to. Kunyari lang meron kang 6-footer na subject. No? Natangkad siya. Kapag 50mm ang focal length mo, and you are 10 feet away from your subject, from your 6-footer subject, makukunan mo siya whole part. Okay? Pero, sabihin natin, ay hindi, kasi nakita ko somewhere, the longer the lens, the better for portrait. So, gumamit ako 105mm. At 105mm, 10 feet away from the subject, na 6-footer, half body lang ang makukunan ko. So sabihin natin, okay lang na half body sa 105, total 50mm yung madalas kong gagamitin. So that's about 6 feet from the photographer to the background. So that's a total of 19 feet or 5.8 meters. So more or less, sa space, minimum ideal requirement for studio is about 6 by 6 meters. Minimum. Ceiling height, about 10 to 12 feet. Depende kung gusto mo yung, nakita niyo yung mga rail na nakakabit sa ceiling for the lights, na. Pero, pictorial area mo pa lang yun. Okay. Kung meron kang studio na gusto mo, meron kang walk-in clients, meron ka pang receiving area, no? Ideally, meron kang editing area, dressing room, meron kang restroom. So, kung gano'ng kalaki yung ibang spaces, depende na sa'yo. So, Dail, ibig sabihin ba, dahil wala akong ganyang space, wala na akong pag-asa magkaroon ng studio? Hindi naman. Hindi naman. Yan lang yung ideal. Yan yung komportable kang makakapag-work. Siguro comfortably, you can take a group of 5 to 7 people per group portrait. Hindi na masama. No? Pero paano kung ganito lang kaliit? Pwede. Pwede. Maglibot lang kayo sa mga studios na nandito sa mall. May makikita kayo mas maliit pa. Mag-iba na lang yung setup mo. Bakit? Wala ka pang studio lights. Ang meron ka, compact flash. So doon pa lang hindi na malaki yung space na gagamitin. Kaya lang may soft boxes pa. Malaking ginagamit. Pwede kang mag-bounce. Pwede mo i-bounce yung ilaw mo. Instead of using a softbox, i-bounce mo na lang sa walls. Kaya, next important thing to consider would be your walls and ceilings. Pag walls, ano kayang kulay ang ideal for studio? White? Gray? Black? Ganun talaga akong estudyante dati. Sabi niya, no joke, sabi niya, orange, ay pink. Pink. Modern siya nung class ko. Nung dinaskas namin, white is, sabi ko, white na lang for practical purposes. Tawag siya agad, huwag pala pink, white. Okay. Una, bakit huwag pink?
Color cast.
May color cast ka, no? So unless gusto mo medyo mamula-mula siya lagi. So sabi nila, the ideal wall would be 18% gray. Kasi yun ang neutral color. But para mas practical, white would be a better choice. Kasi pwede ka mag-bounce ng ilaw mo, plus pwedeng ang subject mo, so white background kahit wala kang seamless paper, ilayo mo lang siya ng konti from the wall, gray na yung background mo. Pag nilayo mo pa siya ng gusto, pwede nang black yung background mo. So, in reality, white pa rin yung wall na yan. Kaya lang nilalayo mo lang yung subject from the background. So, ibig sabihin, pwede ka na mag-invest sa ibang backgrounds naman. Ceiling is also white. Pero anong pintura kaya? Matte? Glossy? Matte? Okay yung matte kasi hindi siya highly reflective. Ang problema ko dati sa matte, nung may studio kasi ako dati, yung mga students, mahilig magtaas ng paa sa wall. So, ang dumi. Ang hirap linisin. Semi-gloss is good. Kung glossy naman, minsan ang dami mong stray lights, highly reflective naman siya. Minsan gusto mo naman heavy shadows, hindi mo ma-achieve. Okay, sa floor naman, ano kayang material? Carpet. Ano na pong choices natin? Carpet, tiles, vinyl. Ako, as plain as possible, like, ewan ko kung makikita niyo dito, pero ito, as in semento lang. Semento lang, na nilagyan lang yung grooves. Plain, very plain. Bakit? Kasi tatakpan mo rin naman siya ng background eh, di ba? Bihira siyang makikita sa pictures. So, okay na siya yung plain. Pero kunyari, gusto mo talaga tiles, basta make sure na maganda yung pagkakalay ng tiles. Bakit? Once na ibaba mo yung seamless paper, at naka-stilettos, no? Naka-high heels yung client mo, pag apak niya, bubutas yung seamless paper, lalo na kung carpet. No? So, goodbye, 4,000. Pero kung di problema ang budget, ang mukhang mayayaman naman yung mga alright, so okay lang yan. Question tungkol sa size, space requirements ng studios. Okay pa? So, ano na ba yung photo studio business opportunities? Most common, tingin ko ang naisip ng lahat would be a commercial studio. Okay. Commercial studio, from the word commercial, meaning you're after the profit. No? Family pictures, corporate photos, no? Minsan bridal portraits, family, baby portraits. Okay? Under commercial studio, pwede ka rin mag-home studio. Yung iba ganun ginagawa. Nirerentahan naman nila yung buong place. Yung second floor would be their house, the ground floor would be the studio. Or yung iba may extra space talaga sa bahay. Okay lang. Okay. Ano bang advantage? When you have a commercial studio, you have a more professional reputation. Parang, okay, photographer ka, saan ang studio mo? Laging, next, it's more convenient for you. Lahat ng gamit mo nandun. So imagine you have this, normally mas malalaki yung softbox, no? You have this light. Sa space pa lang, alam mo mang dalhin mo siya pala all the time. And then you decide on the policies. So syempre, ikaw yung boss, ikaw yung magsasabi kung ano yung rules and regulations. Negative disadvantage would be a high overhead. Magkano ang rent sa Quezon City? Ngayon naglalaro sa 20 to 30,000. Mga ano yun, 50 square meters, tapos mga nasa second floor ka, wala ka sa ground floor. Okay? Medyo mabigat sa bulsa. Siguro, sa provincial rate would be different. Okay? Baka depende rin sa city. Next, it requires more investment. Bakit? Hindi ka lang naman kasi sa photo equipment mag-invest. Mayroon kang furniture, yung appliances mo, syempre may aircon ka. Ano pa bang ibang advantage? If you have a studio, it's a more controlled environment. Okay? Unlike na mag-shoot ka outdoors, pagka dumaan lang yung cloud sa araw, iba na agad yung setting mo na naman. Okay? Pero, your safety and your security, also your privacy, is at risk. Bakit? Naranasan ko na dati, yung assistant ko sa studio na nakawan ng cellphone. yung katabi naming unit, tinutukan ng barel. If it's a home studio, yung bahay mo, nandun din, dahil alam nung client mo na doon ka nakatira, 11 na ng gabi, tatawagan ka pa rin. Okay, so wala na yung privacy mo. Okay. But having a studio may have the space you need. So alam mo na agad, okay, ito yung kaya kong i-shoot sa studio ko kasi ganito kalaki yung space ko. Versus, magpupunta ka sa condo unit, uy, pa-family picture kami dun sa condo unit namin. Malaki naman yun, gano'n kalaki, basta malaki, ganyan. Pagdating mo, malaki nga yung space pero ang daming furniture. Saan mo ngayon ilalagay yung ilaw mo? Hindi na kasha. And isang negative naman would be your choice of location. Baka mababa ang foot traffic. No? Isang advantage ng malls would be foot traffic. Laging may tao. Sabi nila, pag nagsascout ka ng studio mo, tayo ka dun sa prospective location mo. For a day, bilang ka dun. For 1 week, every day, bilang ka kung ilang tao yung dumadaan. Okay. And then, only 1 or 2% of that would be your prospective customer. So sa 100 taong dumaan, 1 o 2 lang ang possible na customer mo. So ganun ka-importante yung foot traffic and vehicular traffic. May isa pang choice, on-location studio. On-location studio service, which is what I concentrate on now. Okay? Bakit? Una, more affordable investment. Walang 2 months advance, 2 months deposit for the space. Okay? Yung furniture, hindi na rin kailangan dahil doon ka na sa house mo. Tapos yung props doon na sa house ng clients. Lower overhead. Wala ka ng studio assistant na kailangan mong sweldohan every month. No? Ikaw na lahat halos gagawa. Kaya lang, kailangan mo i-transport yung equipment mo. Sa kotse ka pala mag-i-invest. Bibili ng kotse. Hindi naman. Naranasan ko yun, no? Yung tatay ko dati, wala pa siyang kotse. Magsushoot kami, food photography, taxi. Okay? Dala-dala, lahat naman to na full, di ba? Pero marami naman yata ngayong mababang, promo for cars. Okay. Next, it's convenient for clients. So tulad nito, this picture taken siya doon sa bahay ng subject. So as in, dinala mo yung background doon, may ilaw doon. Tapos, especially kung kaya family picture, may edad na, o kaya merong newborn, most parents do not want their newborn to go out. No? Pag sabi mo newborn, that's 0 to 10 or 12 days. Kasi madami pa siyang sakit na makukuha. Pero yun nga, baka naman sabihin ng client, malaki yung space ko, pero yun pala, sa photographer's point of view, ang liit. Okay? Talagang hindi mo alam saan mo isisiksik yung ilaw mo. Pero, if you're doing on-location service, you're more flexible in terms of schedule. Kung meron kang day job, you can keep your day job and then schedule all your shoot sa weekend. No? Or at night. Depende kung anong schedule mo. Kung may lakad ka, ibahin mo siya ng appointment. Isang concern naman doon would be safety of the client's properties. Pagpunta mo sa bahay nila, baka maraming babasalin or mapagbibintangan kang ninakaw mo yung ganito, no? Mahirap din ka. So that's one disadvantage. You have a third choice. Ayaw mong mag-on location kasi wala kang kotse. No? Wala kang pang transport na equipment. Ayaw mo mag-commercial studio kasi mahal ang investment. You can always rent a studio. Ngayon, ang dami nang nagpaparent na studio. Anong advantage nun? Low to zero overhead. Okay? Bakit? Wala ka na i-maintain na equipment. Sila na bahala doon. Next, you have minimal equipment maintenance cost. Ang maintain mo na lang is your own camera. Okay? Or kung may iba kang accessories na gusto mong dalhin. Okay? And minimal investment on personal equipment. So, yung laptop mo na lang. No? Hindi mo na kailangan bumili ng aircon para sa studio. Meron na dun sa i-rent ng studio. Kaya lang, and then, on the negative side, kailangan swak dun sa, yung schedule mo with your client, pasok dun sa schedule ng availability ng studio. Okay? Yun yung kalaban mo minsan. And then, ano yung available equipment ng studio? Hindi naman lahat ng studio merong lahat ng light modifiers na kailangan mo. And then, baka minsan, may mga studios na may policies na hindi pala pwede shoot. Like, si sir, kung gusto niyo mag-nude photography, not all studios will agree to that, no? So, yun lang yung ilan sa mga disadvantages. Question so far? On location, studio rental na lang lahat? Ay, question, yes.
Ang pinaka-applicable lang dyan is yung studio, yung own studio na rental, yung commercial space na you own it. So if you will choose yung on location and rental, what can you advise na we can still register a business with an address, but to lessen the cost, yung second and third option you can enter?
Pag freelance ka, basta you're earning from whatever you're doing, you should what? Always register. So, whether you have your own studio or you're going for on location or mag-rent ka ng studio, because you're a photographer earning from photography, kailangan mo magpa-register. BIR. So, importante dyan, meron kang resibo. So, kung on location ka na lang, freelance, that would be your personal NIN. No? Sa DTI ka re-register, and then you go to BIR, and then that would be I think that would answer your question. And then later on, kunyari nakaipon ka na, gusto mo na ng own studio mo, and then you just, kung biglang corporation kayo, you just go to SEC, you go through everything else. Pero even if you don't have your own studio, basta nag-wedding ka, ideally meron kang OR. Ideally. Baka may taga-BIR dito. Ideally. Titinda tayo. Okay. So, does that answer your question?
Required kasi may address. Sa bahay na.
Yeah.
Tapos, pa rin naka-address. Even if you're not using your one space.
Exactly. So, bahay mo. Bahay mo yung... O kung galit ka dun sa best friend mo, address ng best friend mo. Para kung may hinabol, siya yung habol. Okay, tama? Tama. Next question is, ang tanong ni sir is kung space nung client yung gagamitin, paano yung costing mo? Or paano yung hatian? Magkano nila yung sisiw? Then you just, kumbaga services na lang ang hindi na wala nang naka-factor in na overhead ng studio mo. Ganun. Later on, we'll get through paano ba yung consider mo pagka mag-professional. Ano pa? Questions pa? Okay. So very important, registered business ka dapat. Whether you own a studio or you're a freelance photographer. Alright, so for your equipment requirements, always consider the type of studio service that you want. Okay. So kunyari, gusto ko may sarili akong studio. Tapos ang bibilhin mo lang puro compact flash. Okay? Pwede naman. Okay? Pero another thing you should consider would be your target market. Kunyari, bumili ako, may malaki akong studio, 6x6. Tapos malaki pa. Tapos kumuha ako ng compact flash. No? Pero ang target market mo, class A. Nasa Alabang ka. Ayala, Alabang. Tapos gusto ko sumingil per session ng 15 to 20,000 for a 2 to 3 hour session. Sa tingin mo, pag nakita ng kliyente na compact flash ang gamit mo, mai-impress sila. So, hindi mo maalis sa customer kahit na alam natin among ourselves na kahit cellphone camera gamitin ko, kaya ko mag-produce ng good images. The clients will think, bakit ako nagbabayad ng 20,000 tapos ang liit mong flash? Ba't ako magbabayad ng 20,000 o para sa 2-hour session ng camera niya, cellphone lang? So, babagay mo yung investment mo ng equipment sa target market mo. Kunyari naman, sige, sa ano ko sa Class C, Class B, Class C, target market ko, volume. So, madami. Pero, nag-invest ka sa pagka laki-laking mga ilaw, pagka mahal-mahal na camera, matagal bago mo naman makuha yung return of investment mo. Okay? Isa yun. Pangalawa, minsan, which became my problem also before, then, pag Class C minsan ang target market mo, pag dumating sila sa lugar na maganda, na-intimidate. Ang akala nila, mahal yung presyo. Okay? Pero dahil nakita nila maganda, hindi na sila papasok. Okay? So medyo mahirap na marketing na. Next is, of course, consider your budget. So hopefully, pag ang target market mo is Class A, dapat ang budget mo medyo Class A din. Okay? Parang syempre, kung ang gusto mo chideng, ang budget mo dapat pang chideng. Alright, so ano ba yung basic studio requirements? Madali, syempre, camera and lenses. Pwede na ba yung 18 to 55 na ng kit lens? Kasi yun lang yung nabili ko ngayon Pwede na. Kung portraits, alalahanin nyo lang, if you're using 50mm focal length, you should be at least 5 feet away from your subject. Okay? Pag 5 feet away from the subject at 50mm focal length, ang nakukuha mo, mid-shot, hanggang kalahati ng time. So, ibig sabihin, kung magpo-close up ka, hindi na pwede. Okay? Bakit? Distorted na yung mukha. Unless, babies, kukunan mo, babies can get away with that. Bakit? Especially pagka newborn, medyo naturally distorted pa ang babies, di ba? Kasi yung features nila hindi pa fully formed. So, hindi mo mapapansin yung distortion. So, camera and lenses, of course, you have studio lights or compact flash. Bakit may or compact flash? Kasi baka gusto mo on-location service ka. Tapos sabihin natin sa condo ka nakatira, ang kliyente mo puro nandun sa condo. No? Lahat na nakatira sa condo na yung kliyente mo. Hindi practical bumili ng studio lights kasi you don't have the space for that. Compact flash will do. For example, this one, this is by Jinbei. 35 sa akin yung 2,000. So, buong set na. So, you get this, 1, 2, and 3. Bawat ilaw ay 300 watts. So, meron ka ng dalawang softbox, may 3 kang light stand, tapos meron ka ng barn door, tsaka honeycomb. Sobrang good start kung gusto mo talaga sa portraits. So, from here, pwede ka na mag-corporate, pwedeng family pictures, pwedeng fashion. So, with these 3 lights na namin ang magagawa. Not bad for 30,000 actually. Siyempre, light stands. And then, light trigger. Ngayon, marami na tayong pang-trigger, no? Meron kang pocket lizard, meron kang, what do you have? Photics. How much is the photics? Mga nasa 1,000. So, kahit na naka-compact flash ka, you can use triggers. And then, background. So, pwedeng seamless paper. Ang problema sa seamless paper, mahirap siya i-transport. Kasi matigas siya tapos mahaba. So, kailangan kotse mo medyo malaki. Kuhaan ng van, no? Mag-rent ka ng van. So, kung on location ka, pwede na yung mga muslin backgrounds or create your own backgrounds. Then of course, light modifiers. So, ano na ba yung usual light modifiers? You have your reflectors, soft boxes, umbrellas, tsaka like this one, is a barn door, snoot. Again, depende sa gagawin mo. Baka naman kasi gusto mong kunan ng picture, madalas family pictures, no? With family pictures, anong naiisip natin? Medyo evenly lit, no? Very less shadows. Hindi mo na kailangan mag-barn door masyado. Why? This will give you heavy shadows. No? Softbox will do. Baka umbrella will do. Baka nga mag-bounce ka lang sa wall, pwede na. Question sa equipment. Yes. For nude, kailangan to. Maganda.
No.
Joke.
Considering, for example, if you have a small studio, right? Is it required to have like a 300 watt per second strobes or lesser? In comparison with your budget as well.
Okay. What will you be taking pictures of most of the time?
Portraits,
Group? Individual?
Individual groups.
Okay. Kung sabihin natin itong maliit na space na to, no?
Right.
So, 150 watts is good enough for individual photos. Couple, siguro mga hanggang group of 3. Pero, ang gagawin ko na nun personally, iba-bounce ko yung ibang ilaw ko. Like, for example, may backlight, babounce ko na lang yun para everybody will get even backlight. Kung individual, okay ka pa rin mag softbox. So, ang 300 watts, hindi naman requirement ng 300 watts. Pero I always tell my students, kung may budget ka rin lang, the bigger, the better. Pagdating sa softbox. Okay? Pagdating sa power, the higher, the better. Bakit? What if suddenly kailangan mo ng 300 watts and you only have 150 watts na ilaw? Okay? Anong gagawin mo next? No? Technically speaking, mag-open ka na ng aperture mo, magtataas ka ng ISO, which compromises other technical things. No? Depth of field mo, yung noise. Pero kung meron kang mas mataas na wattage ng ilaw, kailangan mo mas mahina, gagawin mo lang, inaan mo siya. Or pwede mong dagdagan ng light modifier ng diffuser. So same thing. Kung sa softbox, kunyari, the bigger the better. Bakit? Ano yung rule? The bigger the light source. Ano kaya quality ng shadows? Softer. The softer the shadows. So, bili ka ng malaking softbox. Like, kung may budget rin lang. Tapos, later on, kung kailangan mong mas maliit, you can cover out other part of like, kunyari, ito, tatakpan ko lang ng black. At least, may mas maliit na ako na light source. In effect, lumit yung light source mo. So, did I answer your question?
Follow-up question. Advent ng LEDs nowadays, now they have like stronger lights. What would you suggest? Strobes or LEDs?
Sino lang naka-experience mag-shoot with LEDs? LED lights? Okay, anong ISO normally ginagamit nyo? Let's say indoor, ganitong setting. Mga 400, 800.
No, they have LEDs like 1,000 watts for those big
Okay.
ones.
Okay. So,
Not that small.
okay. But if it allows you to shoot at ISO 100 and at at least 1/125 of a second na shutter speed, okay lang. Pero if ang problema ko kasi when I shoot kids, they're always in motion. They're always moving. And if LED lights cannot freeze that for me, then it would be a problem. Pero, kung if you're shooting mostly adults who can take instructions, pwede siya. Hindi pa rin. Depende what, ang tanong is, hindi ba hard yung shadows that LED lights give off? Depende sa light modifiers na gagamitin mo. So if you start bouncing it against a wall, softer na yung shadows. If you put a huge softbox in front of it, then softer na rin yung shadows. Chismis ng makalat. 50mm is sabi na portrait lens. If you need a starting point really for portrait photography, I would go for 85mm. Okay? Bakit? Ang 50mm, as mentioned, ang limitation niya is, if you go closer than 5 feet, you'll get distortion. So, hindi maganda, unless meron kang kino-correct na imperfection sa mukha na magagamit mo yung distortion. Pero, why did it suddenly boom? Kasi mura. Yung 50mm na 1.8, 1.4, 6,000 lang versus 85mm na 1.8, magkano ngayon? So, mas malaki yung difference nila in terms of price. So, 85 is really an investment. Kaya lang, pag naka 35 mm ka, and you like shooting close-up photos, wala ka ng distortion. So yun ang difference niya with 50 mm. Is it a portrait lens? Sure, pwede. You just maintain the limit. In reality, can you use wide-angle lens for portraits? Okay? So, depende sa concept. Pwede. Bakit? Bridal. Bridal portrait. As long as you put your subject sa part ng lens where walang distortion, let's say you use the gown as your foreground, pag wide-angle lens ginamit mo, fish eye even, no? Pasok. Pwede siyang. So parang ano na siya, ang tawag doon would be environmental portrait if you include yung background, no? Did I answer your question? But it still follows the distortion of the... Any more? Pwede mo makorek yung distortion post-production. But as much as possible, I discourage you from having that mentality. Ay, ipo-photoshop ko na lang to. Ay, ipo-photoshop ko na lang to. Bakit? For example, with what I do, kuno ko ng picture, kaya si GMA Records, meron siyang si Jaya dati, no? Right after the shoot, i-burn ko na yung, wow, CD pa nun. I-burn ko na yung pictures. Tapos, I will immediately give it to their graphic artist. Wala akong time i-edit. Linisin, kung anong kailangan linisin. Ngayon, pagdating ng pictures ko doon sa graphic artist, at ang dami pa niyang i-correct, sino masasira? Ako din. So, as much as possible, lahat ng pwede mo lang i-perfect sa actual shoot, i-perfect mo na. Pero, kunyari may isang shoot naman, sabi ko, yung may hawak na gitara yung artist, sabi ko, linisin natin yung gitara kasi ang daming fingerprints. Sabi ng graphic artist, hindi, papalitan ko naman ng kulay yan. Okay lang. In that case, shoot na. Right? Any more? Question? Yes.
So, ang ganitong klaseng setup, na studio, malakas siya sa kuryente, or
Hindi naman. Makatao naman siya. Bakit? Hindi naman siya all the time nag-fire. So, kunyari yung 300 watts, gagana lang siya pagka nag-flash siya. Modeling light niya, yung ibang modeling light niya, pwede yung LED bulbs na lang. Ibang modeling, ay wala pa. Ano, pwede itong bulb lang, no? Ordinary bulb. Ito malakas. So may ibang models ng ilaw na ordinary light bulb lang. Pwede na yun yung model. Very controversial question, no? Ang babies ba daw, kaya ba ng mata nila yung flash coming from the studio lights or the compact flash? Maraming studies that say kaya ng mata. Bakit? Yung power emitted by studio lights, di hamak na mas katiting lang sa nai-emit ng araw, no? Ng sun. So, kaya ng mata ng babies yung studio lights. But, I've encountered parents na very concerned about that. So, syempre, hindi ko pipilitin. Okay? Bakit yung iba ang argument nila, pag, especially kung madilim ang studio, di ba? Madilim ang studio, modeling lights ang inaka-on. Yung pupil, or yung iris, yung pupil ng bata nakabuka. Kasi madilim eh. Pag biglang nag-fire, biglang magko-constrict, no? Sasara. So sabi nila, that strains the eyes of the babies. So, kung in that case, ang ginagawa ko, I leave the ambient light open. Okay? Kung merong window, pwede mo pang i-leave open. At least may natural light na, medyo na, kumbaga na-acclimatize mo na yung mata ng bata. Pero if it's really going to be a problem with the parent, pwede ka nang ibang option na gawin mo. So you use natural light, no, next to a window, or LED lights. Especially kung newborn, hindi naman gumagalaw yung newborn. Tulog lang yan lagi. Did that answer the question? Sa skin niya? Sa skin niya, I haven't encountered any problems with that. So, kung kunyari, bakit? Kasi mainit? Yung biglang buga, hindi, kung yung biglang buga, hindi naman. Kasi fraction of a second lang yung buga. Mukhang maraming baby si sir.
Ngayon kasi may mga bago na mga studio lights na lumalabas na battery operated, especially on location. Is it reliable ba siya? Or do you still prefer yung mga sinasaksak? Or especially pag mga outdoor shoot, gusto na tayo, is battery operated reliable talaga? Or do you have some preferred na brands?
Okay. Siguro, in my experience, reliable naman siya. But just make sure that you maintain your equipment well. No? You regularly take it to the, para mapa-service kung kailangan linisin o kailangan ng palitan yung bulb o gusto nyo may fuse no, na kailangan palitan. But I always think of a backup. May backup plan ako lagi. No? Kunyari kung mag-outdoor shoot, hindi nag-work yung ilaw ko, lagi ako may compact flash. Compact flash, no? Yung very cheap na, very old compact flash, you can use it with any camera as long as you're using a trigger. No? Is it reliable? Yes, it's relatively reliable. Pag nag-shoot ka naman sa labas, hindi naman, as in, bira naman yung whole day talaga. No? So, just remember, anytime you're shooting, kahit na hindi yung battery pack, as in yung electricity yung ginagamit mo, always give your lights time to rest. Kasi pag sunod-sunod, lalo na yung mga trigger happy, no? Hindi pa nagre-recycle yung ilaw, pa rin, mag-overheat. Ang tendency talaga ng ilaw is to overheat. So, every now and then, give it some rest. Also, take it as a break na rin for your model and for yourself. Yes?
Hi, hello po. Have you discussed more about the beauty dishes? And when to use it? Sorry, late po.
Okay. No, we haven't discussed it. Hindi talaga siya kasama sa topic. But okay, overview. Beauty dishes, saan siya ginagamit most of the time? For the face, for beauty shots. What do you want to know about?
Kailan po siya hindi advisable?
Okay. Ang sagot talaga is, anytime you want. No? Pero when is it commonly used? If you want what we call butterfly lighting or beauty lighting, saan ang ilaw nun? Dito sa harap, no? Which gives you shadows under the nose. It emphasizes the cheekbones. So for men and women, it's both good. Tapos you just put reflector here or another fill light. Other beauty dishes have diffuser pa rin para softer pa yung shadows. Bakit beauty dish instead of, bakit hindi na lang to? Okay? Bakit if you use this light modifier, like minus this, it gives you a hot spot. No? May area ng face na mas maliwanag kesa the rest of the face. Beauty dish, dalawang ginagawa niya. It bounces light and it also directs light. Okay? So, mas even, mas diffuse pa yung lighting. Any more? Okay? Good pa? Yes! Nauna si Sir, and then Sir in green.
How about yung sa expenses for on location shoot? Halimbawa, gumamit po kayo ng strobe light dun sa mismo site.
Okay, how much yung expenses? Okay, we'll get to that after. Okay? And si Sir in green?
Regarding beauty dish din, pwede bang substitute na softbox na lang instead of beauty dish?
Yes, pwede. Softbox would still give you softer shadows compared to beauty dish. Yung beauty dish, yung quality ng shadow, of course, still depending on the distance and the size. The beauty dish gives you somewhere between a softbox and a direct light. Ganun yung quality ng shadow niya. It's defined enough para for beauty lighting, okay, but not too soft that you lose the shadows. Can you use softbox? Yes. Actually, before beauty dish, yun ang ginagamit naman dati. Sige. siguro we'll move on first before the next question. Okay, here's another one. Dahil digital age na, needless to say, you need a computer or a laptop. And then external hard disk, katakot-takot na external hard disk. Bakit? Mura na lang ang external hard disk ngayon. Naalala niyo po ba yung time na bibili ka lang ng memory card na 1 week, nasa mga 5,000, 6,000 pesos? Umamin. Hindi mo naabutan yun, bata ka pa. Okay. Alright. So always backup, backup, backup. And of course, memory cards. Meron na rin ngayon mga memory banks, di ba? Para if you're on location, imbes na magbubukas ka ng laptop, dun mo na lang ina-download. Also, if you have a commercial studio, I suggest, or sa bagay, kahit on location ka, no? My advice is, you have a separate computer or laptop for editing. And then a separate computer or laptop for office work. So, bakit? Yung office work, yun ang nag-internet. Because yung virus, okay lang. Kesa mo virus yung ginagamit mo for editing. Okay, eto na. Please fasten your seatbelts. We won't mention prices, but here's what you need to consider. Budget mo. Magkano yung budget na gusto mo? Plus, magkano yung budget na kailangan mo para doon sa iniisip mo i-offer mo na service. Paano mo makukuha yung budget na yun? Are you going to take a loan? Or may investors ka ba? Or personal savings mo? Ibebenta mo ba yung bahay mo muna? Para magka-business ka? Huwag naman. Okay. Type of studio service that you want to offer. So, eto na. Gusto ko ba yung meron akong physical studio? Kaya lang, ibig sabihin, nandun ako dapat lagi. Or kung wala ako, dapat meron akong photographer doon. Okay? Or gusto ko ba on-location service? No? Ako pupunta sa bahay ng kliyente or kung saan mag-shoot. Kaya lang kailangan ko mag-transport ng equipment. The concept, theme, or style of your portrait or the kind of photography that you do. Kasi bakit? Minsan naman yung iba may studio but not for portrait, di ba? For products. Small products, no? May isa si John Chua, cars naman, no? Ang laki ng studio niya talaga. So, syempre kung pang-kotse yung studio mo, hindi pwedeng 6 by 6 meters lang. No? Mas malaki yung requirement. Other portrait studios, yung iba pang babies lang talaga. Yun ang focus nila. Ang maganda doon, because you have a more focused target market, mas madaling mag-decide sa presyo, sa props na bibilhin mo. Okay? So, kung babies lang, yung iba tend to lean on classic, minimal props. Yung iba naman, talagang grand props. No? Kunyari, there was a studio before yung Blow Up Babies. Full production, no? Malalaking letter blocks. Okay? Malalaking teacups, gano'n, nandun yung parang Ann Geddes pero actual shoot. No? Very minimal Photoshop. Okay? Market. So again, sino pang target market mo? Class A, Class B, Class C? Mahirap kung lahat. Okay? Mahirap kung lahat. You cannot please everybody. So that has to be clear also. And your location. Baka naman gusto mo engranding props, engranding ilaw, pero sa tondo ka pala. Okay? So, maliit yung spaces sa Manila, Class C, maybe Class B, pero yung equipment mo or investment mo, Class A, matagal-tagal na shoot yun. Okay. Okay, so, you also need to consider your cost of investment in terms of money and time. Once na meron kang studio, especially kung commercial studio, most of the time, people expect you to be there. No? Especially kung may pangalan ka na. Kung wala ka, at least meron kang photographer doon, in-house photographer. And when you have an in-house photographer, ibig sabihin, kasama siya sa payroll mo. Bago ka sumweldo, siya muna. Okay? Meron kang studio assistant. And then, time. Kung may day job ka, baka mahirap. Are you ready to leave your day job to have a studio? Your own studio. Iniisip ng iba, sige, gusto ko commercial studio. Pero may work ako ng Monday to Friday, Saturday and Sunday lang ako mag-work. Pwede naman. Kaya lang isipin mo, yung rent mo for a month, let's say 25,000, no? Kailangan in 4 weekends, at least makover mo yung rent mo sa shoot mo. Okay? Next, you consider your monthly overhead. Pag meron kang commercial studio, everything, like the utilities, ang rates niyan commercial din. So, ang Meralco mo, pag sa bahay, mga 3,000, 2,000, no? Baka lower yung iba. Pero pagka commercial rate na yan, times 2, times 3, no? Even yung water. Internet. Internet, 999, meron ka ng internet sa bahay. Pero sa commercial rates, I think about 3,000, no? Pagka commercial, okay. And then think about your return of investment. So dinami nung in-invest mo, na-compute mo ba kung kailan mo siya mababawi? Baka naman 10 years bago ka makapagpalit ng camera. Okay? Virtual reality. Lahat ng tao, ito ng 360 ang ginagamit, ikaw yung DSLR pa rin. Right? So you have to consider that also. Also, very important, may studio ka. Anong gagawin mo sa off-season? So sa photography, specifically sa may mga studio, may seasons din yan. Like, kunyari kung nag-wedding ka, yung December, mataas yan, no? Sa weddings. Hindi ko magkanda o gaga sa schedule mo. Pero, kaya may studio ka, may time yan, usually mga August, na medyo low. What can you do? Others, pinaparent nila yung studio nila. Sa mga students na photography students, no, may assignment. So you can do that. Alright, let's think about investment. So equipment, you have photography equipment. Okay? So alam natin, this is more or less 33,000 for the set, and you have your camera. For the camera, I suggest you go for at least semi-pro level. Okay? Bakit hindi entry level? Okay na yung entry level, mura. No? Kaya lang, pag entry level, minsan wala pang isang taon, may bagong model na naman. Pero may kliyente mo, mas mataas pa yung model ng camera. Nangyayari yan, no? Mag-wedding ka. Ang mahal na ng camera mo. Tapos yung isang guest, mas mahal pa yung camera sa'yo. Not that it should bother you. Kasi alam mo naman yung output. Kaya mo naman eh. Pero minsan, your own client will say, bakit ganyan lang yung camera mo? Yung tito ko, ganito yung camera. Huwag mo sasagutin na, sa kanya ka naman kumuha. Ha? O, gano'n. Then you have your trigger, no? For the camera, I suggest you buy from legit stores, no? Legit companies. Like for example, Camera House, no? Yung ibang stores nakita nyo dyan. Iwasan yung gray market. Hindi dahil nasa Camera House tayo ngayon. Pero, ang sa akin lang, your protection. Paano yung warranty? Paano pag may sira? Sino mahabulin mo? Pahirapan pa sa customer service. At least, if you buy it from a legit store, kunyari lang, may kailangan ka ipa-service, then you can always go back to that store and claim your warranty. Right. Next is editing equipment. Ayan na. Software mo, no? Magkano ang Photoshop? Pero ang Adobe CC ngayon, diba, you can pay monthly. Okay? Or, okay, you can pay monthly. Finish. Next is your office equipment. So sabihin natin meron kang, let's assume na meron kang studio. So, syempre, you have your office equipment, yung computer mo. Okay? Next is paperwork. Yan ang mahirap, no? Kala mo pag may business, mas masarap. So you go get your SEC or TTI registration. So ngayon pa lang, mag-isip-isip ka na, ano bang pangalan na ang maganda? Ang sabi nila, kailangan 2 to 3 syllables yung name for it to be catchy. Parang gano'n, no? I don't know how true. Next is, pag meron ka ng, pag may entity ka na, you go to BIR, get your BIR registration, business permit. Ito na yung pupunta ka na sa City Hall, file your paperwork, and bawat steps may binabayaran. Okay? Kung magkano, depende na lang. Okay? But I suggest, Sa gain ng pila, dumiretso sa mga taong kinauukulan. Okay. Ito ang medyo masakit kung meron kang commercial studio, the construction or renovation permits. Yung renovation naman depende sa kind ng gagawin, ano? Pero let's say it's a fit out, no? Ganito, mall, no? Meron kang ganito, fit out. Magkano aabutin ng construction? Sabihin natin bare lang, dahil studio naman, no? Ayaw mo ng maraming cabinets, bare lang. That's about 6,000 to 8,000 pesos per square meter. Right? So kung 2 floors yung yung studio mo, kung ano yung floor area ng sa baba plus sa taas, that's how you compute for the construction or the renovation. Pero ayan plain lang. May pintura na. Next, releases. Ito wala namang paperwork, wala namang bayad. But this would be your model release and your photographer release. Ano ba yung model release? Anong nasagap na chismis about model release? May idea? Kailangan sa nude yun. No, I'm just kidding, sir. Okay, so model release, kunwari, pinunan ko si Ryan ng picture, no? Ako yung photographer. Papapirmahin ko siya ng model release. Bakit? Sa model release, nakalagay doon na pwede kong gamitin ang picture niya according sa kung ano man yung conditions na stipulated doon. No? So I can use it for commercial purposes, so kung ano man. So may system. May isa pang gusto kong release din. I call it the photographer release. Na-encounter ko, may kliyente ako, Amerikano. Nagpa-shoot siyang pictures. Hindi siya kumuha ng prints, as in yung pictures lang, no? Pag-uwi niya sa States, hindi niya mapaprint. Kasi sabi ng printer, ng photo lab, this looks like it was taken professionally. I need a consent from the photographer who took this. So ako, oo nga, pwede, no? So, photographer release, ibig sabihin, I'm granting Ryan to use the pictures I took of him to whatever purposes na i-include mo. So, kunyari, that answers the question now na, paano yung kamag-anak ko? Wala nang bayad yung pag-picture ko sa birthday ng anak niya. Tapos, hinihingi pa yung large files, no? Binigyan ko na ng web resolution, ganyan, ng low res. So, pwede mo bigay yung large files, samahan mo ng photographer release. No? Na hindi pwedeng gamitin for commercial purposes. Ibig sabihin, kung kikita sila, kailangan kung humingi ng written permit from you. Bakit? Yung pala ilalagay sa billboard, no? Kumita sila ng 100,000 na hindi ka man lang na-credit. Hindi ka nabiyayaan. So, depende niya kung gano'n ka greedy. Okay, o kabait. Yes, you have a question.
Do we have a template for that?
Template.
Or do we need just...
Actually, ngayon, if you Google model release, maraming sample model releases. Plus, there's an app now that you can download. So, nasa phone mo na yan, no? Pag may kinuna ka street photography, kinuna mo ng picture, mukhang magagamit mo in the future. Doon pa lang, papirmahin mo na siya sa phone mo. Tapos, it saves as PDF. Pwede mo na email ka agad dun sa model mo. Ginawa ko lang for the photographer release. Same lang sa model release. Iniba ko lang yung conditions. You negotiate. So every time, in any contract, before you sign, you read everything, tapos, you negotiate. So kunyari, sinabi na gano'n, yung picture ko, pwede mo lang gamitin hanggang 5,000 prints lang, kunyari. 5,000, o 3 exhibits mo lang pwedeng gamitin. Pwede mo sabihin, pwede bang 5 exhibits naman? Yeah, negotiate. Yeah, it's all up to you. So for that, yung legal side, no, ang na-realize ko, habang tumatanda ka, kailangan meron kang kaibigang doktor, kasi tumatanda ka na tsaka abogado. Okay? Baka lang para sure. Okay. Any more questions? Okay. Alright. So, next investment would be yung space mo na. So, that would be your rent or your lease contract. Sa ibang rent, but at least 3 years, bihira ka yata makakuha ngayon ng every year ka nagre-renew. Na bakit? Sa side ng owner, lugi naman kung 1 year lang. So 3 years, yun yung kalakay. Others could be longer. Plus dun sa rent, meron yan usually 2 months advance, 2 months deposit. So kung 25,000 ang rent mo, that's 100,000 kaagad ang ilalabas mo sa una. And then you have your construction and renovation. Yan. Utilities, ayan na. Yung electricity mo, siyempre. Phone, internet, water. And again, remember, lahat to, if you have a commercial studio, commercial rate din siya. Unless you're working from your own house. And even if you're working, sabi mo na, oh, may garahe ako, so medyo separated yung studio mo, no, from your personal space. See to it na you include in your accounting na it's as if nagbabayad ka ng renta. Bakit? Eventually, kailangan mong papinturahan ulit yung garahe mo. Kailangan mong i-maintain pa rin siya. So, at least, makita mo na, oh, kumikita ka pala talaga, o nalulugi ka ba? Okay. Next, people. So, syempre may photographer, and I assume that's you. When you have a studio, kailangan may sweldo ka. Kailangan kasama yon sa cost mo. Okay? Magkano ba dapat ang sisweldohin ng photographer? O magkano ba dapat ang makataong kinikita ng photographer? Sa class namin, iniisa-isa namin. And let's say you are a single person, so walang anak sa labas, no? Talagang malinis, walang sabit. Single, nagre-rent ka, sabi mo nire-rent mo nasa 15,000 lang. Hindi ka naman magastos na tao, ang budget mo is 500 a day, kunyari, no? For 1 month. Tapos kumuha ka ng studio package, no? Tsaka camera mo, that you have to pay sa credit card mo 0% for 24 months, no? Parang lumalabas for the credit card parang 8,000 per month yung babayaran yata. For 2 years, no, sa lahat 'yun, kailangan if you're going to work for just the weekends, ibig sabihin Saturday, Sunday ka lang mag-work. So in a month, that's 8 days ka lang mag-shoot, no? At least, nasa 7,000 ang charge mo sa kliyente. Okay? 7,000 ang charge mo sa kliyente. Sa 7,000, mababayaran mo yung credit card mo, yung hinulog-hulugan mong equipment, mababayaran mo yung bills mo, mababayaran mo yung rent mo. Wala ka pang kita. So, depende. Either lumipat ka sa mas mababang rentahan, okay, but that's a ballpark figure lang. So marami pang ibang factors that you need to consider. Next is you have a studio assistant. Bakit? Mahirap mag-shoot, especially kung baby o kahit adult, no? Lalapit ka maya ayusin mo yung buhok, lalayo ka, ayusin mo yung damit. No? Or meron kang receptionist, syempre, graphic artist. Right? There you go, your receptionist. Syempre, kung lahat yan magagawa mo, okay lang. Pwede bang magawa lahat yan ng isang tao? Pwede. Kasi na-experience ko yan. Noong una akong mag-studio, dahil wala pang pampasweldo ng ibang tao, ako lahat yan. And then, accountant. Ngayon, kung meron ditong marunong sa accountancy, the better. Bonus would be if you have or know someone who's a makeup artist, hair and makeup artist. If you plan to go on full production, no, medyo malalaking companies talaga, it's good if you have a marketing manager. Next is operations manager. Talagang malakihang studio na to. Dahil ngayon lahat nasa social media, you have a virtual assistant na yun lang ang ginagawa niya. No? Facebook lang, Twitter, Instagram, and very important also to have a website. So webmaster who maintains your websites. But again, bonus na to. Minsan, ikaw din lahat yan. Depende sa kakayanan mo. And other things that you need to invest on is props, kung commercial studio. Furniture, syempre, saan uupo ang kliyente mo. Appliances, may aircon ka, no? Electric fan. Marketing strategies, bakit? Syempre, sa marketing, kailangan maglalaan ka ng budget for marketing because, like for example, now, you have this free workshop. Right? So, that's a way for people to know that your company exists. And maintenance. dapat laging well-maintained ang equipment. Question so far?
Tanong kasi, how did you start? Kasi with all of this figures na pinapakita mo, I mean, it's
paano?
hard to understand or maybe gano'n matigas talaga.
How did I start? I sold my car. Totoo yun. Binenta ko talaga yung second hand ko na Toyota XE. Tapos, nag-loan din ako sa bangko. And then, I had a 3-year contract. To. Sabi ko nga sa inyo, dinaanan ko ako yung photographer, receptionist, graphic artist, minsan makeup artist. No? Tapos hanggang eventually, kaya na magpasweldo. So, humiram ako ng staff from my dad. Pero yun, ako magpapasweldo. May mga days na lahat sila may sweldo, ako yung wala. No? They really go through that. And then, parang blessing in disguise na rin, may dumating yung Ondoy. Ondoy, no? Yung area namin, yung studio kasi is in Retiro, so Quezon City. Yung area na yon, hindi siya binabaha talaga, Ondoy lang. Buta second floor yung studio. And then maybe, that time, people didn't have, yung purchasing power was low. Eh, syempre, bago ka magpa-picture, ayusin mo muna yung bahay mo, di ba? Pero around that time, bawi ko na, no? Kumikita na ako. But yung 3-year contract ko was about to end. My plan was to move to the next building, yung katabing building. So, hindi ko na renew yung existing contract. Tapos, hindi ko pa kinukuha yung sa bagong building. Pag-check ko doon, may poste sa gitna yung space. So, paano ko naman magpo-family picture, no? May poste sa gitna. Eh, so, hindi, ibig sabihin, I ended up with no space. Tapos na yung contract ko, hindi ko makuha yung bago. Sakto naman, I was getting married around that time. Sabi ko, sige na nga, isipin ko muna yun. So, hindi na, wala nang studio nun. And then, some clients were still calling me, asking, do you still shoot? Pwede ba dito sa bahay? Tapos naisip ko, nga no, parang mas makakatipid ako nun. May kotse pa naman ako nun. No? Nabenta ko yung isa buhay pa. Sabi ko, mas maliit nga lang. Sabi ko, sige, pupunta ako dyan. So, what I do is, I do an ocular visit first, para alam ko ano yung papa-move ko na ng furniture beforehand, no? Tapos alam ko saan yung anong light ko, anong kailangan dalhin. I can charge more. Bakit? Because when you go to your clients understand na, it's a personal service. Mas mahal to. Okay? So, you can charge more. Not entirely para perahan, pero tama sa kita lang, reasonable. And then, I don't need to maintain a payroll. Yung staff ko, binili ko na sa daddy ko. Tapos, wala na akong rent na babayaran. So, swerte naman yung I live with my mom. So, may bahay naman. So, there. So, from a commercial studio, it's a community studio, no? Malapit siya sa mga schools. Class B, yung target market. Later, I'll tell you saan ako nagkamali. Para hindi nyo na maulit. So, benta ang kotse. Okay. Benta ang kotse. Ano ba? Are there any questions pa? Wala pa? Alright, eto na. Things I wish I knew before investing in a commercial studio. And now you know. Okay. Alright. Knowledge in the arts does not equal knowledge in commerce. Hindi ko alam yun nun. Nagka-studio ako, 27 years old ako nun. 35 na ako. 26. Akala ko, basta, alam ko naman yung magaling mo lang mag-shoot, no? Customers will come. Not realizing na, hindi pala ganun kadali. Right? So, if you have the chance to take a crash course or even a full course in business management, no? Take it. Or kung hindi mo kaya, get someone who can. Madami palang kailangan pang pag-aralan. Also, I realize hindi naman lahat kasi ng artist, businessmen. Hindi rin lahat ng businessmen, artists. Okay? Marami akong kilalang photographers na magagaling. Pero walang pera. but they don't know how to market themselves. Right? Or they don't want. Like ganun eh, hindi, this is art, this is pure. Wala siguro papakainin, okay lang. Pero kung ikaw si photographer na meron kang mga bibig na pakakainin, hindi pwedeng laging puso. No? Kailangan may bulsa. May laman ng bulsa. So iba naman, hindi magaling masyado sa photography, pero ang daming kliyente. Weddings, talagang fully booked, no? Kailangan mo magpa-appointment, pa-text mo lang siya bago ka. So, ano lang, ibig sabihin nun, magaling siya mag-market. Pwedeng hindi siya yung mag-shoot, kukuha siya ng ibang photographer. Okay? Tapos may porsyento siya doon. Okay? Namamorsyento siya. Okay? So yung iba, that's one way of earning from photography also, no? Kung magaling ka sa business, ikaw ang parang investor, you get the talents. Okay? Kung talented ka, you don't know how to market yourself, get an investor. Parang sa US, if I'm not mistaken, di ba dito ang models may agents, may managers. Sa US daw, ang photographers, may managers din, may agents din. So, if you join an agent, meron kang trabaho regularly. Because the agent will find customers for you. Bakit? Paano siya kikita? Si agent, meron siyang porsyento. Okay. Next mistake, know your customer. Yeah. Okay, so, ang area ko nga nun was class B, no? Yung market. And then, I didn't realize, kasi gusto ko yung studio, ganito itsura, ganyan. I didn't realize na ang kliyente pala, pwede ma-intimidate niya kung ano yung itsura ng studio mo. Ang packages ko nun, mura. Mura lang siya. Because I was after volume, community studio, class B. Kaya lang, dahil mukhang maganda yung itsura, yung facade. Wala po pasok. Okay? So, kung kailangan mo palang, kung nat-intimidate sila, hindi man lang sila papasok. So, I had to do some changes along the way para to get some clients. Okay? Pero kunyari naman, ang client, ang market mo, class A. Tapos, lahat ng equipment mo, DIY, no? Talagang yung softbox mo, cardboard, no? Illustration board. Ay, ano pa? Yung karton ng gatas, yung gano'n, no? Yung corrugated board, no? Hindi naman papasok ang class A. O papasok, aalis agad, you know. Know your limitations. So, hindi lang sa limitations mo as a photographer, no? Techniques, also your principles. My vision then for my studio was, it's a family place. Okay? Tapos may isang kliyente, babae, nagpa-shoot siya ng sexy poses. Okay lang. Tapos hanggang sa, natuwa siya sa pictures, gusto na niya ituloy sa nude. Okay lang sa akin yung nude. Because I teach nude photography also. Pero yung gusto ng nude, pang playboy. No? Ganong tingin. No judgment. No judgment. Okay, kung if that's your thing, okay lang. Kaya lang mine was a community studio. May mga bata na pumapasok and I don't want them to have that impression na, okay, pwede pala dito yun. So, pero that time, I didn't know how to say no. I didn't know how to stand my ground. Kung wala kang principles, edi okay lang. Wala akong problema. So, for that time lang, it wasn't in keeping with my vision. Next, learn to do the paperwork. Like taxes. Tax may monthly, quarterly, may semi-annual pa, di ba? Tapos may annual ka, renewal. Okay? Pero, if you can do the paperwork, hire the right people. Kaya nga merong accountants sa pwedeng hire, no? Bookkeeper, marketing manager. And when you hire people, always remember this, trust in God, but lock your heart. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Nag-hire ako ng tao to take care of my taxes, no? Pati business permit, renewal. Tapos, hindi pala niya binabayad sa BIR tsaka sa, so ilang months yun. Tapos hanggang sa hindi ko na siya makita. So my problem was I didn't know how to do the paperwork. I trusted the wrong person. Next, dream big, start small. So being big, malaki yung vision mo, pero kahit siguro may budget is not a problem, konti-konti lang. Huwag masyadong happy shopping. Like, baka mamaya kasi paglabas dyan, nasimot na lahat ng tinda dito. Okay lang naman. Okay lang. Alright. And take calculated risks. Okay? Calculated risk is different from being rash. So sabi kasi nila, the bigger the risk, the bigger the rewards. Tama yun. But when you say risk, especially pera ang pinag-uusapan, yung iba baka nagalaw ng konti yung pang-tuition ng bata, no? Para kasi, alam mo, you make it a calculated risk. Think about everything first. As in, magka-calculate ka. And finally, success is whatever it is that gives you inner peace. So, again, as photographers, iba-iba tayo ng rason why we take pictures, no? Ako, personally, I realized I'm not a businessman. I'm not a business person. I love photography. I love teaching more. No? Gusto ko pagka nagtuturo ako, pag sasagot ako ng tanong. No? Iba naman, like my father, for him, it was a necessity. No? Kasi wala naman, medyo hirap din dati. Tapos kumita siya sa photography. So ngayon nagtuloy-tuloy na, and then he learned to love the craft. Yung iba naman, talagang passion lang gusto. No? They're in a different field. And so, when you have your own studio, regardless of what type of service you offer, you have to think, okay, why am I doing this? Okay, ito ba talaga yung gusto ko? Kung hindi talaga yun yung gusto mo, move on. Pwede mag-baking, vulcanizing. Joke lang. Alright? So there are other fields of photography kung gusto mo rin mag-photography. Alright, questions? Yes.
Sa dami ng photographers ngayon, do you think na profitable pa? Or lucrative pa ang pagiging photographer?
Okay, good question. Ang tanong lang dyan, may pera! May pera ba sa photography? I think, dami naman ding restaurants, di ba? Daming restaurants. Daming nagka-car wash, daming laundry shops. Ang tingin ko talaga, it's a combination of calculating your risks versus rewards, studying your market, being good in your craft. Tapos, kailangan din, magaling ko mag-market, selling. So again, if you do not know how, you hire some people. And of course, naniniwala pa rin ako sa luck. Kahit pa paano, naniniwala ko, kung para sa'yo, no? Kung hindi upol, hindi bubukol. But don't stop there. Chase it. Ang problema ko, isa doon is, totoo naman, sa dami ng photographers, sabi ni Dail kasi at least 8,000, 7,000 ang charge mo dapat, laka ang kita doon. No? Tapos yung iba, 2,000 lang mag-charge. Okay. May album pa yun. Ay, di, nakakita talaga ako, 10,000, video, photo, as may album. May isang kliyente ako nun, pero pinaulit niya sa akin, hindi ako yun Pumunta sa akin, sabi niya, yun yung binayaran niya. Tapos, birthday party ng anak. Pagtingin ng shots, puro, blurred. Puro blurred. Naawa ako talaga kasi 7th birthday. So, ginawa na lang namin, nirecreate namin sa studio, may balloons, gano'n. So, you get what you pay for. So, dami-dami, paano man ako lalaban sa 2,000? Eventually, yung mga nag-charge na hindi makataong rates, they will be gone. Kasi, mawawala wala na silang pang recover yung equipment nila. Hindi na sila makapagpalit. Okay? Ikaw naman, if you want to stick to your rates, no? You have to remember, kung si kliyente tawad ng tawad, kung hindi mo na talaga kaya yung rates na gusto niya, ibig sabihin, hindi siya yung market mo. You're in the wrong place. No? Kung class A ang gusto mo, bakit ka tumatambay sa class C na lugar? Doon ka tumambay sa class A na lugar. Kung class C ang gusto mo, because you're after volume, no? Volume driven, huwag ka tumambay sa class A. Sa class C ka mga pagtitigan. Okay? So, sorry, ang tanong is kung may kita pa ba? Meron. Who else? Question pa?
To compare, kasi marami akong friends na mag-wedding. So parang hindi sila nag-studio eh. What is the pros and cons of studio photography setup business versus yung mga on-site na photo, video, ganyan, wedding? Ano yung you can, sisisan na lucrative pa rin naman, what can, should you, which path should you choose?
Okay. Depende pa rin. Ano yung skills mo? Kasi iba rin yung skills ng you're using studio lights or flash. Because there, you are manipulating light. Huh? Ikaw nagko-control ng light. Versus you're shooting available light, kunyari, ikaw ang nag-a-adjust sa ilaw. Pangalawa, for me, kung kaya ko rin lang, I would at least not necessarily invest in a studio or in studio equipment, but at least equip myself with the knowledge. Like kayo, hindi naman, I'm sure hindi naman lahat mapupunta sa ganong field, no? Pero at least alam niyo, at least may option ka. What if suddenly ang naging trend is on-site studio? Lahat, no? Yun yung maging trend. At least prepare ka for that. Pro bono, mabait ako eh. So, okay, doon muna sa sino yung talagang, I think pareho lang. Bakit? Pag class A, you're margin driven. Baka 3 kliyente lang ako sa isang araw. Kunyari lang, ang kailangan kong sales sa isang araw is 10,000. Kunyari lang. Meron lang akong 2 kliyente na magbabayad ng tip 5. Solve na ako. So, hindi ka patol. Pero, kung sa class C ka, mas matao, mas maraming taong pupunta, kailangan mo nga lang, sabihin natin, mag-tig for 500. So, ilan yung 20 na clients ang kailangan mo. So, tingin ko pareho lang. Isang tip pala. I realize, pag may studio ka, kung commercial studio and you offer ID photos, siguro mga 25 to 30% ng sales mo, baka 50 pa eh, doon mo magaling. Yes. Why? People always need IDs. Mga nag-a-apply for work, no? Kahit digital na. Especially yung mga nag-a-apply abroad. Mga magbabarko, o kaya mag-work sa Dubai, ganyan. Ang swerte ko lang nun, yung studio ko, 2nd floor, no? Ang 3rd floor nun, agency. So, ginawa ko na, nakipag-tie up ako, sabi ko, kung may shoot kayo, refer nyo sa amin. Every time mag-refer kayo, you get a fee. No? So, every month, nag-remit ako sa kanila ng referral fee. Ay, pro bono pala. How do I handle pro bono? Lahat ng photographer dadaan sa pro bono. Ex-deal. Okay. Ikaw ang mag-assess sa sarili mo. If you think you have the skills na pwede nang maningil, then, pwede ka na maningil. Start charging, no? Pero, if you go on X deals, ang maganda naman nun, depende rin, mo sino title mo. If you really will have exposure, at wala ka pa masyado sa skills side, okay yun for you, kasi parang tuition fee mo na yun for earning skills. Dari, gusto kong mag-events, no, concerts, kasi hindi pa ako marunong mag-shoot. So, sige, sama ka muna sa mga X-deal. At least, alam mo na yung kalakaran. Gusto kong mag-wedding, tuntut ka muna sa isang photographer, no? At your own expense, yun na. And then, eventually, mapipil mo na, teka, parang 10 years na ako nagpo-pro bono. Huwag naman. So, kailangan lang talaga, ngayon, ang ginagawa ko pro bono if it's for a good cause. Kaya charity work, no? Kung hindi ko maintindihan, kamag-anak, ikakasal yung pinsan mo, okay, ikaw na mag-shoot, ganyan. And then, what I do is, if I don't want to take the job because mukhang magiging problema, ganun, I defer it to a friend, photographer friend. O minsan yung ibang mga estudyante ko na nag-wedding na ako, sa kanila ako nila-defer. As much as possible, pagka masyadong close friends or kamag-anak, parang doktor, di ba? Pagka kamag-anak mo, mahirap makipag-transact. So, at least, objective lang. Walang sama na loob. Questions? Alright. So, meron pa?
Questions?
Okay. Wala na. So, if there are no more questions, this is my email address. Sumasagot talaga ako sa mga email. Minsan, hindi ngayon magkakaroon ng question after pa. So, it's dailderi@yahoo.com. Give me at least 48 hours to respond. Pag sa Messenger, minsan natatabunan. So, better pagka Facebook. And also, just in case some of you are interested in learning studio portrait, this is my class at PCCI. So that's the website, www.pcci.com.ph. My class is Studio Portrait 101. So ano bang dinidiscuss dyan? Hindi naman kasi lahat mapupunta sa fashion photography, di ba? Pag sa fashion, magaganda at marunong mag-post ang models. Most of the time, you encounter ordinary people. Hindi marunong mag-post, hindi pantay yung mukha. Like, kunyari, kanina pa ako nandito sa harap nyo. Dapat by this time, napansin nyo na yung right cheek ko mas malaki kesa sa left cheek ko. Na yung right eye ko mas maliit kesa sa left eye ko. So how do you correct those in photography before Photoshop? Okay, so that's it. Tapos, so basic class din siya for how do you set up your studio lights.
Yung kailan dapat o kailan ginagamit yung negative field?
Negative field. Where did you encounter negative field? Sige, so far, ano yung isang kasama?
Kasi meron akong photographer na friend from New York. Sabi niya, pag shoot, try ko daw yung negative field. So, something new na gusto ko i-try. And sabi niya, not all the time naman daw ginagamit unless na meron kang something na magkaroon ng tama sa image. So,
Field is when you use a black side black material. Is that what you're referring to? So, ang question, when do you use negative field? Unang question ko, when do you use a reflector? When do you use a reflector? To bounce light, to lessen the shadow, no? Minimize shadow. So, kunyari, this is my reflector, dito ilaw ko, syempre magkakaroon ng shadow dito. Kung ayaw mong madrama masyado, or gagamitin mo siya for commercial purposes, usually, even very minimal shadow, no? Para mabawasan yung shadow dito, I'll put a fill, kung di fill light, you use reflector para minimal shadow. Negative fill is, instead of using a white reflector, you use normally sa likod ng black side of the reflector. If the white side minimizes shadows, what does the black side do by it? Emphasizes shadow. So it adds shadow. Kaya sabi niya, mas madrama. So kunyari, everybody's familiar with Rembrandt lighting. So Rembrandt lighting. Diba Rembrandt, let's say dito yung ilaw ko, I'll have shadow here, tapos may highlight dito. Kung gusto, kunyari gagamitin siya for billboard to endorse a product. Normally yan, very light yung shadow. So white reflector. Pero let's say it will be used for movie na drama. Dapat mas heavy yung shadow. So gagawin yung black side. You put the black material. Yung mga questions kanina, may tanong mo, ano yung signs na kailangan mo mag-studio? Okay. Ano yung signs na? Signs na kailan ka magiging ready. Parang ano naman yan? Signs na crush ka ng crush mo. Parang gano'n yan. Okay, signs na ready ka na mag-studio. Okay. Una, alam mo na gamitin yung studio lights. Baka bumili ka lang pero hindi ka pa pala marunong. No? Pangalawa, financial is something that you cannot deny. No? Kailangan yung financial aspect. Kaya mong i-sustain yung studio mo. Pangatlo, yung iba magsa-start direct wedding, no? So nag-on-site location. Ang problema minsan, mayroon middle-aged couple. Hindi na mahilig mag-picture. Hindi na, wag na tayo pumunta sa kung saan, ano na lang. Basta may picture lang kami. Tamad magpa-picture, no? Then, having a studio would be a good option. So, at least meron kang indoor. Minsan din, pag maulan sa labas, at least meron kang indoor. Okay, bakit? When you have an indoor studio, pwede ka naman mag-simulate na it was taken outside, diba? Parang ganun din, if you shoot outdoors with the right equipment, it can look as if it was shot in a studio. Question, negative field. Ano ba yung ibang questions kanina that you wish answered? Sana na-answer. Okay. So again, kung may question mamaya, biglang nananaginip kayo, naalala nyo, email. That's my email address. So, the class. Ano ba yung class? If I'm not mistaken, nasa 6 or 7,000 yata. But it's 3 days. It's a 3-day class. Lagi siyang Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So, it's always lecture in the morning and then shoot in the afternoon. Laging ganun, for 3 days. And then, all the rates, all the other classes, nandun naman sa website. So, any more questions? Alright, so if there are no more questions, thank you sa pagpunta. Let's night. Add nyo na lang ako sa Facebook.